Hello, and welcome to episode 1. Today I'm going to share with you 3 steps that produce results. Results that can help you feel healthier and more balanced in your own life, whatever that means to you. And it means something different to all of us, right? But these 3 steps are universal, in my opinion, and the best way to go about getting those results that you want in your own life. I use these 3 steps with all of my coaching clients and in all of my coaching programs. So here they are. Step number 1, take the right kind of action. Step number 2, check your thoughts. And step number 3, set up accountability and support. All 3 of these steps are important, working together. If we do one or 2 without the other, then we're really going to set ourselves up for what might be an uphill battle. You need all 3 working together. Take the right kind of action over time, check your thoughts over time, and set up accountability and support over time. We need time and patience, and that's not something that many of us have when it comes to wanting to get these results in our health and life. Whether those results are, I want to lose some weight, I want to sleep better, I want to feel less stressed. We want the quick fix. But let me tell you, there are no quick fixes that are going to last. There are no gimmicks. It's about taking consistent action over time and releasing that thought that there's some sort of end result, right? Like I'm working towards being healthy. I'm either healthy or I'm not. I'm either balanced all the time or I am a freaking stress mess. So it's not about one extreme or the other, but having that balance. So I'm not talking about some perfection. And I think when we can just take the pressure off of ourselves that there is this end goal, like I've done it, I am now, quote, healthy. And now I have to do everything I can to stay that way and not, backslide or, quote, fall off the wagon. There are no wagons. Let's release that. This is just an ongoing way of living and being that doesn't involve one extreme or the other. And, that just sounds really nice to me. And I have to tell you, living that way for the last few years has really helped me feel healthier and more in balance by just releasing that expectation. So I'm not talking about these extremes, right? I'm not talking about I eat kale while meditating all day, or I eat nothing but cake while binge watching my favorite show. It's okay to have balance. And so when I'm talking about living healthier and more balanced and getting results, I'm talking about doing that within your everyday life, and that we're not striving for some sort of, I made it, now I have to try not to lose it or slip out of it. So we're talking about taking action consistently, checking our thoughts consistently, and choosing thoughts that serve us better, and setting up accountability and support first to other people, then trusting ourselves to be accountable when no one else is watching, right? So again, we need all 3. Our society, social media, whatever, all the commercials, they tell us there's some quick fix around the corner. There's some, quote, right way to do it. We're led to believe that the product on the infomercial or in the Facebook ad or that book on the shelf will be the next solution. Like this is the next big thing. And trust me, I've bought all the books. I've done all the diets. I've gathered all the information. And let me tell you, there's nothing trendy or flashy about getting real results and keeping them and feeling that you don't have to be some perfect way of doing something, and you don't have to do it the way the person who wrote the book did it. You don't have to try to get healthier and more balanced the way your coworker does it. It's very individualized. Slow and steady and balanced over time is what works. My business is called Keep It Simple, Keep It Real. That's how my dad lived his life. Nothing flashy, just keeping that balance in his life. And that's what I help my clients do. How do we do this? By taking these 3 steps. Taking the right kind of action, checking our thoughts, and setting up accountability and support. In this episode, I'm going to introduce you to each of those 3 steps. And over time, we are going to break those down, and I'm going to give you some examples of how this might look in your own life. All right, let's dive in. Step 1, take the right kind of action. So we've all taken some kind of action towards a goal or a desire, right? We've probably all set the New Year's resolution or the intention or whatever they're calling it these days that, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to start working out. I'm going to start eating healthier. I'm going to stop binge watching Netflix. I'm going to whatever it might be that you feel like you want to do. It's not hard to actually take the action or to plan to take the action. As I've said, I've bought the books and joined the gym. I bought the Fitbit, the Calm app. I've done a lot. I've gathered a lot of information. I've taken a lot of action. But taking action itself might not lead to that result you want, because what happens after we plan it and we're like, yes, I'm going to do it. I mean, 6 months later, am I taking that same action? 8 months later, am I taking that same action? Heck, 3 weeks later, am I taking that same action? I've decided I was going to do whatever it might be, whatever the fad thing was, and it just didn't last. Because I was going about taking that action in a way that was not helpful in terms of the way our brain works and in terms of the way habits are formed, right? I'm a habit-trained coach. So habits are what happen after we're taking an action over time consistently, and it just becomes who we are and what we do. So I doubt that many of you have to plan out and really be mindful and intentional and work so hard to remember to brush your teeth or to remember to put your seatbelt on. It's just something you do. And when we're taking action in what I feel like is the quote wrong way, it's hard to sustain that action. So taking action might not be hard, but it's difficult to maintain it. And so I help my clients take the kind of action that's going to be easy to maintain over time so they can benefit from the results that taking that action over time will produce, right? If I can work out consistently 3 or 4 times a week for 6 months, whatever that workout will be, that's going to produce some results for me. If I can consistently make 2 or 3 meals of energy-giving food a week over time, that's going to produce some results. But I need to do it consistently. Sometimes we get stuck, right? Sometimes we're not exactly sure what kind of action to even take in the first place because we've got so much information coming at us about what the experts say we should eat, how we should exercise, all of that information. It can be overwhelming and it freaks our brain out and we just get stuck. And my hand is raised now too, because there have been many times that I've gathered all this information, made all these plans, and then it's just overwhelming. Mostly because I'm trying to change too many things at once. And we'll talk about that too. So again, taking the right kind of action helps us get the results that we want. And there are ways to take action that promote habits. There are 7 ways that we can take action. set specific instructions. Number 2, start small and break down our goals. Number 3, keep track of what we're doing. Number 4, make our goals work for us. Make them pleasurable. Number 5, set up accountability to others and then to ourselves. Number 6, forgive ourselves. Now that's a new one, right? We get into this story we tell ourselves where it's like, oh, I said I was going to do this, and once again, I failed, and we just get into that negative mindset, and that does not help us take the action we want. Finally, number 7, celebrate your wins and be grateful. So often we're looking to that end result, like I'm not even going to celebrate until I do blank. And we're not recognizing all the tiny things that we're doing on the way to that end result. It's getting those tiny bursts of like, oh, I just did that help us stay in action. So 7 ways to take the kind of action that will lead to a habit. Set specific instructions. Start small and break down your goal. Keep track. Make your goals pleasurable. Set up accountability. Forgive yourself and celebrate your wins. That's a lot of steps, so no worries. I'm going to break these down and give you examples from my own life and from my coaching. This is what I coach my clients on doing. So taking the right kind of action over time. Step 2 in getting the results you want is around checking your thoughts. And this was a completely new concept to me because before I became a coach, I was just all about, I've got to take the action. Just tell me what to do and I will just push myself to do it. And I never really checked in on those thoughts or those beliefs I had about myself or my ability to take the action. And I would end up sabotaging myself. So now that I see the power behind our conscious and unconscious thoughts, those stories we tell ourselves, I can appreciate the power that our thoughts have. So our thoughts, positive or negative, when on repeat over time, turn into our beliefs. And our feelings and beliefs can affect our actions both consciously and unconsciously. So what does that mean? Our brain wants our thoughts and actions to match, even for the small stuff. So if I'm acting in one way, taking action, but what I'm thinking or believing is different from that action, then I'll likely self-sabotage and not be able to get the result I want. Let me give you an example. When I first went through my coaching program and pretty much most of my adult life, once I started trying to eat, quote, healthy, and I say, quote, healthy, because whatever the experts say is healthy seems to be changing. But in my mind, this eating healthy was just complicated, right? We're getting so much information out there. Eat this, don't eat that, macronutrients, carbs, whatever. And in my mind, eating healthy was complicated. It was just complicated. And with that belief I had that food was complicated and eating was that way was complicated, my actions mirrored that. So it was hard for me to follow through because my brain was always telling me this is complicated, and our brain wants our thoughts and actions to match. Another obstacle I had was the belief that I didn't have time to eat healthy. And some of you may have this belief as well. Like, I don't have time. If I didn't have all these things to do, yes, I don't have hours to stand around in the kitchen and chop vegetables, nor do I want to. So in my mind, eating healthy was complicated and I didn't have time. As long as I believed that, it did not matter what kind of action I was trying to take. It didn't matter how motivated I was. It didn't matter how many little planners I bought or or how many cookbooks I bought or how many recipes I looked at, as long as my belief and that thought I was telling myself was that food is complicated, I don't have time, I was going to sabotage myself because my actions would match that. Like, oh, yes, I'm looking through this cookbook. I don't have time for this. I'm overwhelmed. I'm just going to throw a pizza in. Or this is so complicated. I don't know half these ingredients. And so that thought process then would prevent me from taking action. So I learned the power of affirmations. An affirmation is simply a statement that we read, a new thought, if you will, right? Like, let's change the story that we're telling ourselves. We don't have to believe every thought that goes through our mind, but we've had a lot of these thoughts on repeat, and it really makes it difficult to follow through. So my coach helped me develop this affirmation. And again, simple. I wrote on a Post-it note, food is simple. I have time. So it was the complete opposite of what I'd been telling myself. Eating healthy is complicated. I don't have time to do this. Once I shifted the story that I was telling myself, shifted that thought and really forced myself, right? Should think a different thought. Food is simple. I have time. And I put it on a Post-it note. I put it in my kitchen window. I put it in my bathroom. And I kept telling myself, food is simple. This is simple. I have time. Then I started acting in that way. It was easier. It's like, oh, yeah, this is simple. I'm just going to throw these vegetables in this, crock pot and, whatever. I'm just going to roast these sweet potatoes. I do have time. I have time. Oh, yeah, it only took me 10 minutes. I have 10 minutes. I mean, if I don't have 10 minutes, then I need to really look at what I'm doing, right? So I started shifting my belief. My brain wanted my thoughts and actions to match. So once I checked into my thoughts and started thinking thoughts that would serve me better, food is simple, I have time, then it was easier to act in that way. All right, so how can we get these results we want? Take the right kind of action over time. Check your thoughts over time, right? Like, it took me some time. It's not like I wrote on the Post-it note, food is simple, I have time, read it one time, and then it was like, oh, that's good. It's like we get these quotes, or I have these quotes, you'll see a quote and you'll read it and you're like, oh, that's great. Well, just reading it once is not going to make it. It's not going to break through your old thought pattern. So you have to be consistent. So I was consistent in retraining my brain to think that new thought about food, that it is simple and I have time. That's why I talk a lot about being consistent and doing this over time. We can't try to make all these changes quickly. Our brain will freak out and we will sabotage, because any change to our brain is perceived as danger, even good change, and we will sabotage. Like, your brain's almost saying like, oh no, wait, you're not the person that thinks food is simple and chops up vegetables. You're the person that runs around crazy and just gives up and throws a pizza in. So we have to be very careful how we're introducing these new actions and these new thoughts, because if we try to go too far, too fast, which is what a lot of us do, right? And what I used to do in the past, then we're going to sabotage. Slow and steady wins every time. Slow and steady produces the results. But it's not just take the right kind of action and check your thoughts. We need step 3. And this one was hard for me. Set up accountability and support. In the beginning, when we're trying to make these changes, we need to learn how to be accountable to ourselves in the healthiest way possible. Not in a competition like, oh no, if I don't show up and say on the coaching call that I did this, then it's like I lose, or I'm going to be shamed, or, let go of that mindset. One of the things my clients are so excited about is the way that I run my accountability and support group for this. It's a breath of fresh air because we're not focused on this competition, like, oh no, she's going to ask if I did it. And if I didn't do it, then I'm shamed and I get into that negative self-talk, etc. No, we don't judge. We get curious. I wonder what got in the way. I wonder why I said I'm going to get up 3 mornings this week and run when in fact I didn't. I'm curious what got in the way and how can I set myself up for success the next time? So it's coming at this with a mindset of curiosity and not judgment, and not in some sort of competition like, oh no, if I don't do this, then bad things are going to happen. So I have to keep showing up. It's not being accountable in that kind of way, but providing that support, that curiosity. It's a huge mindset shift to come to the realization that you don't have to just push yourself and be in this like, oh no, everybody will point their finger at me if I don't do it. So it takes time to learn how to show up for yourself. We're so used to just, most of the time, right, blowing off our own needs because something else came up or someone else needed something, that having a coach and a community of people that believe in you and support you and are not shaming you and are not contributing to that shaming story you tell yourself because you're like, I don't know, I'm afraid to commit to this because I don't think I'll be able to follow through. Well, let me tell you, I hold that space for you, that you can be accountable and I can give you the support you need to be accountable. In the beginning, we really need to be taught how to be accountable to ourselves because we're not used to it, right? But yet we can show up for other people. And this isn't about being selfish. This is about taking care of ourselves so that we're better able to show up for other people. But we need to learn how to be accountable to ourselves. In the beginning, we need other people to teach us how to do that. So if I told my friend that I was going to meet her on the corner to walk and I knew she was waiting for me, I'm going to show up. Or if something comes up and I can't, I'm going to tell her, or I'm going to try to shift it out or work it out. I'm not just going to blow her off. But yet we so many times will make this action plan or even tell ourselves the thoughts we need to have, but we don't show up for ourselves. Like, oh, well, no one knew but me that I was planning on trying to cook 3 home-cooked meals this week and I didn't do it. So, oh well. Either we shame ourselves or we're like, okay, no one knew, so whatever. It doesn't matter. So we need to set up that accountability and support in the healthiest way. Okay, so those are the 3 steps that produce results, whatever those results are that you want in your own life. Take the right kind of action, check your thoughts, and set up accountability and support over time. These are the 3 steps that I help my clients with when I'm coaching them. And these are the things that I will lay out here for you in this podcast, step by step, week after week, so that I can help you too. That's it for episode 1. If you want to dive a little deeper into these 3 steps and get some examples and more insight, you can watch my free workshop, Build the Healthier, More Balanced Life That You Deserve. And you can find the link to sign up to receive that free workshop in the show notes below. All right, that's it for today. Thank you for listening. And remember, keep it simple, keep it real, and I'll see you in the next episode.